Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. I am here to continue on the anonymous recaps that I've been going through. Really excited. Going to be talking to Jack from the Anonymous to go through his experience on the show, some of his strategies, and he had quite the bit of frustration shown when his game did come to an end. But we are running out of episodes here on the Anonymous. Really unique show. The more I watch it, I will say, the more I feel like it's just a lot, right? Like the episodes and the show and the strategy is like, it's a lot. It's so hard for me. I know I had the conversation with Nina, and Nina's doing really, really good on the show. And so, kind of going through the strategy, it's clearly it's something that's working for Nina, but now, I'm starting to get the feeling that Nina it could possibly become a target. So I've gotten through 10 episodes so far. All these episodes you are able to go back and watch on Peacock. If you want to go check it out, it's on Peacock. You can stream the show, The Anonymous. It also is on USA Network every Monday. And so it's really been interesting. There's really a lot of new things that are happening, right? In episode 10, we see a handle refresh happen again. And these handle refreshes, from what I've seen so far in this game, has allowed somebody to do really well that maybe wasn't doing well in the past. So early on, Jack was doing really, really well. The handle refresh came. Then Nina seemed to be the one that was really kind of doing well. And we usually get somebody random when the handle refresh comes, because somebody can kind of reevaluate how they're playing the game and adjust, right? And so we get to the end of episode 10. And we see one person that has been in that position before and another person that really, like, their game had been figured out. So it's really, really unique. The show seems to be getting to the point for the cast where they're kind of getting frustrated with how people can be one way to their face and then be a different way in the anonymous chat. We're starting to hear different things that people are getting nervous about. I was starting to hear a lot in episode 10 in regards to a face-off in the finale. And so they're starting to think, like, who do you want to play against in a face-off? Like, who do you have a good read on? And who will you get a good read on in one of these face-offs? And someone like Marcel has been doing really good in the face-offs. And so they're thinking, you hear Nina vocalizing, like, that's not somebody that I really want to go up against. And so there's just different dynamics. It just feels like there's a lot of different things that weigh on the cast. And even as a viewer, there's a lot of different things that are going into the strategies. And it's kind of it's a little bit all over the place for me. I like a little bit of like consistency where it's like, oh, that's really going well. This person's really doing well in the game. And then maybe somebody else has to figure them out. Whereas on the anonymous, the handle refreshes that we're seeing happening, it kind of is the built-in way of changing the game in the middle of it. I will say in the challenge, we were seeing some things where, this is where people's games start to get shown in front of people, because the anonymous chat really allows people to play a game hidden and allows a strategy that you want to implement to not be seen by the other people in the compound. But during the challenge, they had this really fun game, which I've seen, through different social media, like posts and stuff. It's like a nice thing where you shift around the pattern, and it's like a hidden code. And you have to shift it, and all you get to find out is how many you have right and how many are in the right place. And so this game was really fun, but the twist that they added to it was, if you place an object in the right spot, however many correct ones you get in a spot, you then eliminate people from the challenge from getting safety. And so now you're in this tough position of, yeah, I want to continue on and I want to get safety, but I'm also now having to kind of show my cards a little bit and eliminate people. And that's dangerous when it comes to the anonymous mode, because, one of the people that were the first ones to have to take away safety was Andy. And Andy had to take 3 people away, Lily, Dylan, and Victoria. He booted out of the game. And that's dangerous when it comes to the anonymous chat, because now you start to feel like, okay, if if a handle is saying my name, could that possibly be that person? And we were starting to see Dylan really, really start to feel like Andy doesn't want him in the game and doesn't think like he's going to work with him. And then in the anonymous chat, we saw Andy put Dylan up and we saw Dylan put Andy up. And so when you have to show your cards in games like this, it's dangerous. And then when you have to show your cards and there's no real way to protect yourself, like only one person got safety in the challenge. So you have to show your cards and you still can't get safety, which is very, very unique. It would, for me, I would go into these challenges and just, I would never want to show my hand. I would never want to have to deal with anything like that. The face off is really unique because you almost have to kind of play and act a certain way. But it's such an interesting game. And I don't know how this cast is really dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. It seems like it's taking a toll on everybody. But I will say one of the people that I'm like really surprised by is Nina. Like I know I interviewed Nina and I was expecting Nina to do well, but like Nina continued to surprise me. And we saw a piece of kind of how she's playing her game, and she mentioned it. She's like playing very under the radar. People are sharing a lot of information with Nina. They're sharing a lot of information with her, and she is doing a good job of not making people feel like they can't. And then she'll go and take that information and share it with other people to gather more trust from other people that are in the compound. It's a really great strategy. The only thing that concerns me about Nina is that, and she mentioned it in the episode, in episode 10, how she is getting safety back to back, whether it's through the anonymous or whether it's through the competition. She's been getting safety. And if I'm in there and I see somebody that's constantly getting safety and somebody that's not going home, that to me would be threatening. Right now, I think Nina's doing a great job of not, raising people's radar to her, and is very like non-threatening. And so I think it's carrying her really, really well in this game, which is so cool to watch because I feel like a person like Nina would really do well in a lot of different competition shows and a lot of different shows that, Nina's put into. I think Nina would do really well. Like I think Nina would do well on Big Brother. I think Nina would do well on the Traders. Nina's doing really well on the Anonymous. I'm sure I didn't look too much into it, but I'm sure Nina did well on Survivor Australia. And so it's really unique to see somebody that's a gamer playing, and I'm still just blown away that nobody is having more conversations. Like Chris was in the game when Jack, Xavier, and Chris had the conversation surround Sandra being related to Nina, or maybe they look similar or something. And then we haven't seen any of these conversations. Now, I don't know if these conversations are actually happening in the compound or people are just kind of so engulfed in the game and there's just so much chaos that goes on in the game that they haven't had a chance to really fully dive into it, because there's the challenge, they're waking up, they have the conversations in the morning, there's the first chat, then there's the next chat, then there's guessing the handles. So there's like so much going on in this game that maybe there's not enough downtime to have people really dive deeper into conversations that maybe had happened in the past, different things that had happened in the past that can be brought up again, because it seems to be like, just something from behind the scenes for the traders. We were filming an entire episode every day. So it was really hard to go back and reflect stuff that maybe happened 3 days ago, because so much is occurring each day that you're not really reflecting. Whereas like on Big Brother, there's a lot of downtime throughout the week. And there's a lot of time for you to reflect and have additional conversations about things that maybe happened in the past, different conversations that maybe happened in the past, where you can kind of check in and see if stories are continuing to be the same, or somebody had one narrative one day and then changed the narrative the next day and you're really aware of it. So it's like these games where it's really sped up and they're filming a lot each day and it's progressing each day, where somebody's going home every single day. That's really, really difficult. It's a really difficult, it's a really difficult um, dynamic when it comes to strategizing and like really diving into relationships and how people talk and what people's body languages are like. And do you notice if does the room shift if I walk in the room? Like we saw, you know, Victoria, Andy, and Nina were having a conversation, and Dylan comes around to just kind of show his outfit. And literally in that moment, Victoria was talking to Andy about thinking Dylan was the anonymous the night before. And I don't think Dylan was aware of like how the energy shifted. And then it kind of was like, oh, you know, right when I came in, everybody's voices just kind of raised, and they noticed me coming in the room, and the conversation stopped. Like you can tend to pick up on stuff like that in Big Brother because there's a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of time between, you know, competitions, a lot of time between somebody going on the block or somebody going home. And this game just seems to be happening so fast that it's really difficult to kind of pick up on subtle cues like that, especially for first time, for people that are playing these games for the first time. Obviously, it's these games are really, really difficult. And the Anonymous, in my opinion, is probably one of the more difficult games that I've seen. It's very complicated. There's a lot of different things that you have to take into account when it comes to strategizing how to play the game in the anonymous mode versus how to play the game in the compound. And so it's really been unique. But now that we're getting to the end of the episode, we see that, you know, someone like Chris, who really has been pegged the entire season, where everybody really seems to know his handle, everybody seems to know how he's playing the game, he has an opportunity to become the anonymous. And it just shows how people can evolve in this game. And Chris picked a handle that, where I feel like in the past he was kind of doing like base level. He's like, oh, I'm going to pick the lipstick because they'll probably think it's a girl. And it's like, now he's thinking of like when he picked his handle in this upcoming and this most recent episode, he picked the T, which kind of throws it off. And he was a little more quiet because, you know, people were taking him in like taking his strategy as like being very vocal in the anonymous chat. And so he was like, let me take a back seat. And then other people were trying to like um throw the other people off by being vocal and saying, oh, I'm going to try to do it like Chris. We saw Andy do it. We saw Victoria do it. And, you know, Andy, it didn't work. Like Andy was one of the earlier ones that didn't get the anonymous. And we saw people kind of guessing that Andy was the banana. And so Victoria and Chris are now the two that we're waiting to find out in this next episode of who the anonymous is going to be. Although I feel like the decision is going to be similar, right? Like I think if Chris gets the anonymous, maybe not, because I think Victoria, if Victoria gets the anonymous, I think Victoria will take out Lily, because Lily is very difficult to read. Like Nina was mentioning this, and that's someone that you don't want in this game. You want people that are easy to read. And Dylan, to be 100% honest, is like pretty easy to read. Like if you bother him, if there's votes against him, he gets quiet. His personality kind of dips off a little bit. Whereas Lily is kind of just even keel. And that's a dangerous person in these games, because you want to at least get a little bit of an inkling into what they're thinking, how they're playing. And I feel like Lily is close with Nina, and Nina doesn't even have a great read on her. And Lily did a great job with the last handle of hiding who she was, and was the anonymous and also close to becoming the anonymous multiple times. So someone like that is very threatening. So I think Victoria is more strategic in that sense, where Victoria would send home a Lily, where Chris might just, you know, send home Dylan, because he's really not, he doesn't like that Dylan keeps going into these games for safety versus for the adding money to the pot, which, to be honest, it's like you want to win the game. And, you know, people trying to get safety is what you should be doing, right? Like you should be trying to get safety in this game. Adding money to the pot, yeah, that's great and all, but like you want to make sure you're safe so you can get to the end of the game, and however much money is in the pot, like you'll be happy with it no matter what. And so I think Chris is a little blinded by that. And so I feel like Chris, if he becomes the anonymous, would go after someone like Dylan because he doesn't really like the strategy that Dylan is going about in the game. But for me, I'd be looking at Dylan and I'd be like, I can get a pretty good read on Dylan. If I go up to Dylan and, you know, I'm bothering him, I'm probably going to feel that in the conversation. Like Dylan had a blow up on Chris earlier in the season where he mentioned, if I become the anonymous, you're going to be coming home. Like that type of person, I would be like, cool, leave him in the house. Cause that's the person that I know. That's the enemy that I know versus like the snake in the grass that I have no idea what they're thinking or what they're doing. And that to me is Lily. Like Lily is playing this game really well. So that's who I would want eliminated. Whereas Dylan, I think, is doing a good job because I think Dylan is just non-threatening, but Dylan's not threatening because people kind of seem to know who he is. He's never really getting that close to being the anonymous, maybe one time throughout the season. So that's why I don't know that Chris really has that like strategy behind it other than just like the obvious of you're not adding money to the pot. So I don't want people in the house that are doing that. It's like, I don't want people in the house that could beat me and can be a snake and stab me in the back without me knowing. Like Dylan. So it's really unique. I'm eager to see who ends up getting the anonymous and how they would go about it. But in my opinion, we're left with Chris and Victoria are going to be one of them two are going to be the anonymous and making the elimination starting the next episode. The next episode is going to be coming out. So I'm kind of doing these and backlogging them, and then I'm going to release them periodically throughout on top of interviews. I have an interview coming up with Jack, which I'm really excited about. I just mentioned that. So if you're watching The Anonymous and you are tuned in and you're following along with these episodes, make sure you have those notifications on. Share the episodes with other people that you see watching The Anonymous because this is a new show, right? And so I'm covering this first season. And I definitely think this show is going to get picked up and we'll have a second season because I think it's very unique and different. I just think, there has to be some type of adjustment. And, like for me, the handle refresh, it like allows people to play a little bit sloppy and then have like a new, like be reborn in the game. Whereas, I think 3 handle refreshes is a lot. Like, I feel like, you should max it at 2. And then, you have to play that game. And I think that's where people can slip up. And that's where it'll show like really how good people can play this game strategically for a long period of time. Like I would rather of the first handle change been pushed up a little bit. Now, granted, they had to do it the way that they did it because 3 new people came in. But I almost wish that, the cast is set, whether that's, they had 12 people, then after 3 went, they brought 3 new ones in. But why don't you just set it at 15 and then have a handle refresh after 7 people are eliminated to see like, okay, this is the first portion of the game. Like how well can you navigate that? And then how well can you navigate that second portion of the game? These 3 handle refreshes are kind of tough because I also feel like you would get more of an inkling as to like who could be which handle the longer that the handles stay in place. So that's something that's interesting. It just throws a lot of different things. I love the face-off because I love how the face-off brings the game kind of to the forefront of like, okay, can I trust this person? Like they were safe or they were at risk. They were lying during the face-off versus telling the truth during the face-off. Like how well is their how well do they put the poker face on? And so it just seems like there's just so much happening. And then when the handles get changed, it's like just more is happening and more chaos. Like we saw it in the anonymous chat. Like it just got chaotic right off the bat. Like everybody's name got thrown in. And I was just like, that was interesting. I just moved the desk down. It was so interesting. I almost crushed my computer there. Anyway, the episodes are really fun. I'm interested to see, like for me, the best player in the game is probably it's a combination of a couple people. Like I think Nina's really good. I think Victoria's really good. I think Lily's playing like a really good game as well. Cause Lily kind of has like she's like reinstated herself in the game after early on, like struggling. So there's a couple people that I'm really interested in. I thought Jack was playing a great game, but it just shows how, the dynamics of this game. You could be doing really well, and all it takes is one person to throw a random vote at you. And maybe that person is doing it not because they want you to go home, but just because they want to try to throw people off to their handle and it could cause you to go home. So it's really interesting how it's played out. I almost wish they would limit how many people can go up. So like they did it the one week where it was like, there's only going to be 2 people that are at risk in this next elimination. And so everybody knew kind of where to throw. And that's where you could see some alliances form and strategies. I wish they would put that limit like throughout the season. Maybe it's like 3 people. There are only going to be 3 people at risk every single time. And it's the 3 people with the most votes. So you like aren't worried about throwing a rogue vote somewhere on one person. And then we can see like throwaways happen where maybe sometimes people are trying to throw away votes, but it actually puts somebody at risk and then that person can go home. It's just like the whole concept of, all somebody needs is 1 vote to be at risk is like, it's just tough. It just makes the dynamic of the game like it's a little too much. So I've just been having these thoughts as I'm watching this game and going along. What are you guys thinking? Do you think that it is a little bit all over the place? Do you think it's really perfect for this style of game? Or do you think some of the things that I mentioned would make like a good adjustment to how the game progresses and how the game kind of has more of a flow? Because it just feels like the game is kind of all over the place and doesn't have too much of a flow outside of, the things that are in place, like the anonymous chat, voting for the handles, the challenge. So like, just feels like there's a lot of different things, which is kind of the flow, but like the strategy of the game kind of doesn't have like a flow. That's just my opinion, but that's me watching as a viewer one, but also like it's hard for me to watch these shows without trying to come up with a strategy of how I would try to play. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to tune in next time. I'm going to have Jack on. I'm going to be doing my interview with Jack on Tuesday. So that episode will be coming out during the week as well. Episode 11 is going to be dropping Monday. Monday is going to be the 14th is when the 11th episode drops. So this episode will be coming out. My interview with Jack will be coming out. Then I'll be kind of going through the 11th episode. I feel like we're getting really close to the finale. So then I'm going to have a finale episode and then, maybe kind of fill in with some interviews of the cast that, made it all the way through the game. So really excited. Really excited to see how this season plays out. It's been fun. So I appreciate everybody joining here on the Winner Circle. I thank you guys for coming in. I know it's a new show, so most of the time we're here, we're talking about Big Brother, but this new show has been really interesting, really unique, and I'm trying to involve different shows on the podcast and just get different people from different areas of the reality realm onto here to talk about their experiences, because I do think that these experiences are very unique, and people that go on these shows and have to deal with the high stress of these shows is very, very unique. So I want to try to branch out and kind of get different perspectives from people. So I appreciate everybody that joined me here on the Winner Circle, and I will see you next time.